Hey, how's it going? What's up? It has been a while since I have posted anything. Story is not going to be interesting, so I'm not going to bother going into it. I will say that for a while there, I took a break in order to deal with some family situations. This time I've been kind of quiet because I've actually been really heads down on something I'm super excited about, and kind of got it into a spot where I felt like I could maybe start talking about it. So that's what we're going to do today. Um, as it said in the title slide, we're going to talk a little bit about code-based trading. That sounds, I don't know, I couldn't come up with a better title, but the main idea there is really that what I have been working on is a programmatic, I mean, it's an indicator, but it's also back testing. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that's constructed, show you guys a little bit about it, maybe show you a little bit about how it's working, and then yeah, and then I'll leave the rest for later because I want to make sure that it's like fully ready before it goes any further. So with that being said, we're going to jump over here to my main desktop, and I've got here in the main pane here just sort of a general workflow. So like I said, I've been working in code pretty heavily for the last couple of months. That started off as me wanting to make an indicator, that turned into me making a different indicator, that developed into me coming up with new concepts, that developed into me wanting to merge the concepts, and then developing a new sort of merged concept, then learning a bunch from that, throwing that out, starting over again, and I'm now on something like my 6th or 7th generation, and it is finally coming into focus in a way that I'm really excited about, and that's what we're going to talk about just a bit today. So I'm going to throw a couple of big nerdy terms out here real quick, and then I promise I will try not to come back to them too much. I am using TradingView as my primary platform right now. There's a couple of reasons for that, but their PineScript utility offers a lot of functionality, and it does allow us to, allows anybody to develop indicators or strategies. What I really like about that is that it's got some built-in back testing. I'm going to show you that in a little bit here. You can actually see some of it in the background already. But I do want to go in, PineScript can be relatively simple. My earlier instances were relatively simple, a couple hundred lines of code, relatively straightforward goals. As the vision has expanded, as I've attempted to get it to do more, as I've attempted to get the system to be more adaptive, as I've clarified my ideas, I've learned some really interesting things. Not all of which were technical. Through this process of focusing so microscopically and with such amazing hyper focus, and I don't say that like in a self-complimentary way, like it's unhealthy, the amount of focus that I have. Like I am sitting on my couch, like until 3 a.m. working on this thing because I'm just like obsessing over it at the moment. Not like in a neurotic, I don't know, maybe neurotic sort of way, but like I'm just energized by what I'm seeing and what is happening, and I want to continue pushing it further. So it's just sort of an endless wellspring, and it can be a little problematic if I'm not sleeping enough, but it's okay. And I think like you'll agree once you kind of see how things are going. So the spaghetti mess in front of us right now is it's a chart that sort of gives an overview of exactly how the system works. We've got inputs that that essentially are taken in and consumed and produced as signals. The system then uses these signals for context. We've got a setup engine that consumes these things in different ways that allows us to route things further down through policy engines looking for different matching conditions, and then ultimately fire trades based on qualification. So it's a qualification context engine is ultimately the big string of words that I feel super smart saying. So that's what I'm gonna go with for now. I will almost certainly not be able to repeat that. But this is the general idea. There are different modules inside of this script. It is a single Pine script that is built in a highly modularized fashion that is designed to respond to the way that the market is working, right? It is not just a simple crossover like, hey, when 8 crosses over 12, go long type of system. It is capable of making those types of decisions, but it is capable of doing a significant amount more. So we're going to flip over right now. As I mentioned, we're using TradingView as the primary platform, and this is an actual look at the strategy that I'm working on right now. You can see, there's a couple things on the screen, right? I'm trying to keep it fairly minimal. These things here are actual executions. This is the back testing. This is part of the reason that I'm excited to do this in Pine, because there are ways to do back testing with historical data. You can consume them down. You can use scripts like Python in order to build back testing labs. TradingView has made that all available, and it is significantly shortened, which is funny to say because I'm literally like hundreds and hundreds of hours into this at this point, but it has shortened the development cycle to getting feedback. And what that's really teed up is the ability for me to rapidly find out whether my assumptions and the things that I generally have to have hard fought, experience to understand better, typically by, putting my money at risk. I'm able to use this. And what's nice here is that when you use strategy, so indicators, the difference if you're a TradingView user, the difference between an indicator and a strategy is that an indicator just passively gives you information, right? And it can give you all sorts of information. You can make them very, very ornate. You can make them very actionable. Some of the previous indicators that I've worked on, which are available for free, if you're in our Discord, you can just ask me, and I'll gladly give you I'll give you access to those indicators, and they are predecessors to what I'm about to show you. But the strategies add this really important component of being able to actually execute trades. So you can design the conditions in order to say, when I see XYZ conditions, I want to go long or go short. And so that is essentially what this context engine is doing at this point, is looking at a massive amount of information and then making decisions based on qualifying factors in order to determine whether we want to go long or short. So at the end of the day, I am showing you right now that the backtesting tool is capable of a bunch of different stuff, but the default right now, I'm showing you 3 months of data, right? This is not trades that I actually took. This is trades I would have taken given the rules of the current strategy. Right, so these rules are in force. They are currently here in code. This is the code, right? This is what the indicator looks like, right? It's about 2,500 lines of logic baked into this thing that I am doing my best to make sure you don't have to look at. And I'm trying to hide a lot of the complexity here on the back end to make a relatively simple indicator. And this is the only overlay over here I've got right now. This is this dashboard that just says where the bias is, what what is the confluence indication, what are the context clues, are we good to make a trade, and where are we at in our journey to finding a qualified entry for something. Now down here at the bottom, this is the historical trade window. This is where the magic happens, or this is the part that I'm most excited about, is that I can come in and I can make these changes, these tweaks. I can take things like, back to the earlier example, if I want to see what happens if I do a 7 crossing over 21 EMA trading strategy, I can simply plug that set of conditions into this framework and then find out what happens. And I can find out over the course of 3 months, how would that condition have traded? What if I tweaked a couple things? What if I add another signal? What if I move an EMA? What if I look at RSI, right? Like, those are all things that you can put in. And if you go out to TradingView, there's no shortage of people who have done a ton of that, right? Crossover strategies, RSI strategies, MACD strategies, right? A lot of like the really common indicators. And I do use some of those. I use some, what is very commonly known as like TTM squeeze, right? Like momentum indicators. Those are some signals that I do use for qualification in some of the setups. But you can see down here, right, that over the course of 3 months, I've taken 176 trades. I've got a win rate of 67% and a profit ratio of 1.174. So ultimately, and this is just to make it clear, I'm only trading one instrument. I am trading MNQ, right? So the micro of NASDAQ which is a futures contract. This is the only thing I'm developing this particular script for. Now, it can be tuned to other instruments. You could use it on ES. You could absolutely use it on, I don't know, SPY or Tesla or whatever you're into. You'd have to go do your own tuning, which I'm not going to be doing for you at this point. But it is possible to take this and get it tuned to the signals of that instrument. The reason that I'm staying focused on one instrument is that it allows me to really dive in on the characteristics of this information and of the characteristics of NQ, which tends to be high volatility, very whippy, high range, and that requires a different set of risk to reward metrics and trade management and setup qualifications, right? Because the things that might look like an expected move in a different instrument won't necessarily happen the way that you think here. So I just want to make it clear that this is not optimized to tell you exactly what's going to happen on any instrument that you plug into it. I have built this very much for my needs. So you can see here that we've got this current trade performance. Now, where this gets really interesting, this is the kind of the back office portion. And you can see I've got a ton of information in here, right? These are all inputs that control various parts of the engine. Trend detection, structure analysis, volatility detection, momentum detection. That's the one I mentioned earlier. We've got an overarching policy to help us make sure that we don't trade in overly low or overly high, overly low, too low or too high of volatility conditions, right? Stay out if it's too wild. And this is where things get a little bit more interesting, right? The setups engine here is sort of where we start our whole, this is where we set our conditions to determine when we start qualifying, when we want to get in and take a trade. And once the setups go through, they gather their context, they run it through policy. Eventually, they bring it to an entry engine whose job is looking for optimal risk to reward entry. And I can make simple changes within this to find out what happens overall when I make an adjustment. So just kind of looking down here, I can come down and I can start increasing my entry strength, right? I want to look for stronger entry signals. And if I'm starting at a 15 right now, like what happens if I go to a 20% entry strength? I can see in real time what happens over the course of the last 3 months. Well, that looks like it helped. My profitable wins went up to 60, almost 70%. So I'm up to 162 trades and 70% and a 1.33 profit ratio. So I've improved all my metrics. Well, I wonder if I can keep going with that. So I'm going to increase the requirement for my entry signal. All right. Well, that looks like it made yet another improvement. I reduced the number of trades. I've increased my win rate up to 71%. And now my profit factor is up to 1.4, almost 1.5. And you can see over the course of time, this is what my P&L, again, would have been doing had I followed this set of rules over the course of the last 3 months. Now, does that mean that it's going to do this exactly over the course of the next 3 months? Absolutely not. The goal, however, of this particular engine is to look for qualifying factors in order to be adaptive to market conditions. So, stated differently, if we're in a choppy market, I'm going to take fewer of these trades. These are set up to work on a trending market. But when those trending signals are not available, right, when that context signal dries up, that means that this particular opportunity will not look as interesting. So these will fade out, and then some other type of a trade may pick up. I may be more interested in reversal trades or playing off of ranges, looking for consolidation plays or reversals, right? Different types of markets present different types of opportunities. And my goal here was not to just say, I hope that crossovers will work in all market types. They absolutely don't. The data bears out on that. If I was trying to make the point, I could go and plug that particular setup in here and show you that it's really no more effective than flipping a coin. Here, however, where we're off to and where we're trying to get to is a highly performant, right? 70% win rate is better than most traders, in their day to day. This is being done programmatically. 148 trades over 3 months. That's a really healthy number of trades and a 1.5% profit factor. I will take that all day, any day. And so, and again, on a mini or on a micro contract, right? Which is, you can get into a micro contract for around like $2,000, $2,500. You can get a margin account and trade those over the course of 3 months. I would have doubled my money. right? Following the rules of this engine. Now, it is highly complex. There are a ton of variables in here. It does not take long for me to blow up any of these performance by making simple changes, right? And this is why it's taken a long time, because the experimentation of doing this, right? Just changing something simple like, hey, I want to use limit orders instead of market orders. What does that do over the course of time? Well, it changes the shape of the trades. It gives me longer losing streaks, which means there's something going on in here that I need to figure out how to signal out, right? So it's kind of a signal to noise ratio tuning exercise. But every time that I come in here and I make these changes, it gives me the ability to learn a little bit more about the market. And what I've also found that's fairly interesting is that my own manual trading has benefited greatly from the amount of focus I've put on clarifying my beliefs and understanding about the market. As a discretionary trader, I will readily admit that I do not always practice disciplined trading. In fact, I regularly don't, and that is one of my drawbacks. It was part of what interested me in coming up with this approach, because it removes my emotional ties to the moment. It helps, it makes sure that I don't get FOMO about missing something that I knew was coming and it started going without me. It has helped me become significantly more disciplined, to the point that I think over here in my actual account, over the course of the month, I have, and granted this is just an MNQ account, but I only lost 2 trades over the course of the month. 55 trades, 53 profitable, only 2 lost. That's like 96%, 93% win rate over the course of the last month. That's sort of what this is helping me out with, and I'm excited to share it. This is going to be an extensible thing, and I'm going to be working on this for quite a while. But it is finally starting to come into shape after months and months of kind of hard fought, understandings and learnings and testings and failings. It is finally starting to fold into an extensible structure that follows the rules and the understanding that I've accumulated over the course of a number of years. And it is finally starting to pay off in the performance that I had hoped for. So I just wanted to give you guys like a little bit of an indication what I've been working on, why I've been kind of absent, and where I'm hoping to get to as a trader, as a technologist. This is kind of a really perfect nexus for the things that get me excited. And I wanted to share it with the 2 of you who actually watch my videos still. So thank you both for tuning in. All right, gang, that's all I got for today. Appreciate you swinging by. There are going to be some more developments. I mean, I'm going to be continuing to work on this thing. Like I said, if you're part of our Discord, by all means, feel free to come out, and you can get access to the predecessor indicators, the ones I mentioned earlier. They're free. You can have them. I look forward to feedback on them. And then we're also going to be doing some additional content here with some of the other traders on the Discord, trying to bring some of the other folks who have some awesome experience together. So there will be more coming out on that here relatively soon. But in the meantime, that's all I got. I hope y'all are staying safe. I know, just real quick topic, I've got a lot in the questions. Those of you who do know me and have know a little bit about me personally know that I'm in Minneapolis. I have gotten a ton of questions from different people about how are things going in Minneapolis. I will just go ahead and give a quick comment. It's kind of fucked up here right now. It is tense. People are scared. People are angry. I see a lot of really conflicting stories on national news about like what's actually going on here. I'm not going to get into all of like my personal and emotional feelings on it, but it is dangerous. It is scary. I don't like it. It seems highly inappropriate, and I very much hope that we can keep calm, that we can avoid escalation on both sides of this thing. It really does not seem like we're on a great path. So so far my family is safe, but we do have some friends that have been impacted by this. I've got crazy stuff happening within blocks of here. Like a lot of the stuff you guys are seeing on social media and the news is very much in the in my neighborhood. So it is scary, and I hope that y'all don't have anything like this going on in your town, and I hope that we can find a way to bring this to a relatively amicable and productive conclusion. But I don't know where it'll go. But any rate, so quick update from the field. Any rate. All right, gang, I'm gonna dip. I'm gonna talk with y'all more soon when I've got more interesting stuff to talk about. Until then, be cool.